Today we'll chat about business law with our guest Doug Bend of Bend Law Group. Hi, Doug.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Your firm is one of the top law firms that helps small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups. It's been featured in Forbes magazine, Huffington Post, I believe the Washington Post, and so you're really out and about, and people really respect you. Have a great reputation. Tell us about the areas of law that you work, and the best time that a client should approach you for services.
Well, thank you for such a kind introduction. We focus on helping out entrepreneurs. We help launch over 50 new companies a year, and then we help grow with them over time, helping them raise capital, perhaps help them maybe sell their company, bring on new people, grow and expand. And so we start often very early on with someone who's thinking about starting their own business. Perhaps they've been working for someone else for a long time and they're thinking about branching off and doing their own thing, and they want to talk to an attorney about what that might take on the legal side.
Okay, cool. How long have you been doing this, Doug?
Oh, I've been practicing law now for about 13 years. I've had my own shop now since 2010.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. Um, and with regards to business owners who are um they're just they're newbies, and they're not quite sure if they even want to start a business, and they're like, I know I need something, but I'm not quite sure what I need for my business. Like, where how do you work with them in the process of figuring that stuff out?
Sure, I think early on it doesn't have to be an all-in, move that someone makes. They could try, working on a side business on the weekends, at night, to see one, do they have a viable business idea? Are they able to get customers and clients that are willing to pay for a product or a service that's going to make it worthwhile for them to go all in on the idea? So I think often, this idea that you jump all in, you certainly could do that, but there's something to be said about wading into having your own business, kind of growing out your client base on the side while you're working for someone else. And then early on, once you decide to start doing that, is thinking about what you have to do as a bare minimum for legal requirements, and then what you might want to do that might make sense for a liability protection angle and or a tax angle. And so, at least here in California, getting started early on, most cities have a requirement that you have to have a city business license once you're doing business for a certain number of days a year. For
Okay.
some locations, it's as soon as you start doing any sort of business whatsoever, you have to have a city business license. For others, like San Francisco, it's a minimum 7 days a year. You're supposed to have a city business license. So early on, the requirements can be pretty minimal of getting started with the business. If you're just doing a few hours here and there, testing the waters, get a city business license, your compliance with that, and kind of see how things go.
Nice. Okay. And then from there, like, what are the areas that you focus on right now?
Yeah, so a lot of the areas that we focus on is for someone that's just starting out is thinking about, okay, does it make sense instead of being a sole prop? It's certainly easy to set up, but there's some drawbacks to it. And one of the main drawbacks is that you have liability exposure if you're a sole proprietorship. And so if you're doing business activities as a sole proprietor and you're sued for those business activities, they can come after your personal assets. There's tax reasons why you might want to be a legal entity. And so talking through with people saying, okay, does it make sense to kind of have the bare bones in place? Or for liability reasons and for tax reasons, does it said make sense to set up a legal entity, if you will, to have those advantages, and weighing those benefits of having a legal entity with the cost of having a legal entity to see if it makes sense for that particular client.
Awesome. The three areas, it was three or four areas that you're working as the intellectual property, and there, can you mention the other real estate? And there was one other area as well.
Sure. So we do quite a bit of intellectual property work, and there's really a few areas. We have a full-time intellectual property attorney on staff. He files over 100 trademarks a year, and so for like
Yeah.
a new business just starting out, you may want to get a trademark, you may not want to get a trademark. And the reason why I say that is that it costs between government filing fees, legal fees, about $1,000 to get a trademark. And when you're starting a brand new business, you may change the business name. Especially early on, you're doing a lot of experimenting, a lot of trying this, trying that, and that's certainly true about your business name as well. And so for some entrepreneurs, they decide to wait maybe 6 months, wait a year, let the name settle to say, okay, is this really what I want to be branding my business as? or do I have a better idea, 2, 3 months in that I want to pivot to, and kind of making sure you're going to be doing business as that particular name before you invest in a trademark.
Got it. Okay, so trademark, and so what's the direction of a business? So say for instance, there's a company and they start their business, they want to keep the name, they get the trademark. How long does it usually take to get that processed?
Well, like most lawyer answers, it depends. But I'll explain my lawyer answer. And so
Okay.
what I mean by it depends is that if everything goes smoothly, the trademark registration process is about 9 months to 12 months, and so it's a very long window of time. So and why is it so long? The reason why it's so long is that it takes several months for the application to be assigned to an attorney who reviews the application. It has to go through a publication phase. So if the application is properly prepared and there's no hiccups, it's typically 9 to 12 months from when you file the trademark to when it's officially registered with the federal government. It can take longer. Sometimes the person reviewing the trademark has questions about the application. Perhaps they want more evidence that you're using the trademark in commerce, so it can take longer. But if everything's teed up and lined up, it's 9 to 12 months. So that's why everything as a business owner, it's a balancing act between ideally what you want to have for your business combined on the one side of the scale. On the other side of the scale, what are the costs involved? And a trademark is a perfect example with that. As I mentioned before, it costs $1,000. On the one hand, maybe you want to wait to make sure you're actually going to be using that name before you get a trademark on the name. On the other side of the scale, it's keeping in mind that, if once you file, you got to wait 9 to 12 months before you get that trademark protection. And so for
Okay.
some people, they want to file earlier because they don't want to wait until there's a problem with someone infringing on their brand name and then have to wait 9 to 12 months before they get the legal teeth of having a trademark. They want to file the trademark sooner rather than later. And then lastly, another reason why you may want to file it sooner is that it can be preventative medicine. And what I mean by that is that before we launch a company, we often search on the database for trademarks to see if there's already a trademark being used with that name that our client wants to use. And presumably, we're not the only attorneys doing that. And so you could perhaps prevent problems from happening by having a trademark and people noticing you're already using the name. So perhaps they're less likely to use the name and create a problem for you.
Got it. That makes sense. Industries that you focus on right now.
Yeah, it really runs a gambit. It's everything from someone working out of their home, just one person starting a business, up to companies that are multinational, thousands of employees. It really depends on the type of project that the client needs to have completed. And so if it's in our wheelhouse of doing, outside general counsel work, could be a great client for us.
Got it. Okay, understood. So, you've had your firm for some time. You've grown your firm. We've known each other for some time, and I just think the world of you. You're just out and about helping tons of businesses get through their challenges and also make sure that they're not challenged, protecting them so they're not going to be going through other challenges. But the one thing that I noticed about you is that you're a giver. You do like to give time to making the world a better place. And so I understand that you're out there with the Young Entrepreneur Council, the Pacific Community Ventures. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on as an entrepreneur, like why is that important to give back in the community, as well as like working your business.
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons for that. One reason is that when I was starting my business, there was people that gave me time that really, there was no really selfish reason for them to do that. I think
Right.
especially maybe it's I live and work in San Francisco. Maybe it's a San Francisco Bay Area, hippy dippy kind of thing. But people, at least in the Bay Area, for boutique business owners, very supportive. And I think part of it is that people have been through it themselves before, and they want to support other people that are starting their own business to kind of give back, to the ecosystem, if you will. So I think call it karma, call it what you will. But I think there was a lot of people that helped me out early on, and I want to kind of give back to the business community as well. And it feels good. It feels good to help people out, help them start a business. I've seen the transformative effect it's had on my life, how it's helped me, achieve better work-life balance and some of my both business goals and personal goals. And so help other people reach their goals as well feels good. And then lastly, it's good business. And so often when you help someone, not everyone, but I think most people, if you help them out, either consciously or subconsciously, they think, well, that's great. You're really helping me out. Maybe there's some way that I can help you. And it's not like I keep a spreadsheet and keep tabs on it, but certainly I think I've gotten uh, back just as much as I put out, if not more so, by people coming back 2, 3 years later saying, "Hey, you might not remember talking to me back in 2015, but I was at a holiday party and I was talking to my neighbor and they're selling their business, and I want to introduce you now to that person because you're so helpful to me 3 or 4 years ago." So people, when you're genuine about it and you really want to help people out and you care about them, that kind of
Yeah.
sticks with people. And often, down the road, they come back and want to help you out as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so great. Kind of like what you were talking about before, karma.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in that too. Like what you put out there, you'll return just without the expectations. It's always good just to be able to do it authentically and with love. So now you have a amazing growing law firm. Recently, you have a family. We've known each other for some time, so I know you before the family and now after. And I just love to have you share what are some things that help you as an entrepreneur just stay happy and healthy. And I believe like the first one was what you just mentioned, which was giving back.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I think this is a good time of year to be thinking about this. So,
Yeah,
early in the
first of the
year,
year.
thinking about
Mhm.
resolutions, and I think resolutions can be personal resolutions. They can also be business resolutions. And for myself, I try to one of the podcasts I like is Tim Ferriss's podcast, and he interviews successful people in different lines of work. And one of the things I think he does an exceptional job at is he looks for common patterns. What are things that a famous actor is doing to be successful, that a famous business person is doing to be successful, that a famous entertainer is doing to be successful, and what are those common elements? And for me, picking out those common elements that uh, to at least try out to see how it affects my life is something that maybe perhaps I want to adapt as well. So, for example, one of those things is meditation. I think that's really helpful. It's something if I'm on my A game, I like to start my day with a short meditation practice, and I think that kind of helps focus my entire day if I'm able to set aside a few minutes in the morning to take a step back and think about you know uh, what my focus should be for the day.
Got it. Makes sense. It's just so happens that yesterday we had a interview with my meditation coach from 10 years ago, and that was a thing that it just helps with being focused and have clarity. It really helps with the business. So I'm glad you mentioned that and giving back. And then what would be the third thing that you feel like really helps?
I think you got to make time really for exercise, and
Okay.
it's easier said than done as you get busy with you layer on the responsibilities of work and family. But I think if you take that half hour to an hour a day to take that time out to really make sure that your health is in place, you're going to see exponential returns for when you're actually at work. And so it's some days it's like, oh, I'm so busy, how am I going to carve out this time to exercise? But if you're able to do that, I think you're going to find that your productivity level is much higher after you take the time to do that. You more than make up for that time.
Nice, nice. So you work in the Bay Area. Do you work with other clients outside the Bay Area?
We do, so we have most of our clients are in California. Certainly a concentration in the Bay Area. I think part of that is just this is where we live, this is where we work, so we get to know people here, and from that, a lot of business work comes from that. But we have clients around the world. Probably about a dozen times a year, we get asked to help a client that's had success abroad, that's coming to the U.S., that's looking for domestic legal counsel, and we help them set up a legal entity and kind of do their outside general counsel work from a U.S. perspective. So probably of the 50 plus companies we set up a year, I'd say probably roughly a fifth of those are international companies are looking for local U.S. help.
Nice. Okay, so you work with international companies, but most of your companies are in the U.S. West Coast, East Coast. You have like equal amount, or
Mostly West Coast, so attorneys.
makes sense.
For better or worse, we're only supposed to be practicing law in the jurisdictions we've been barred in. And so I'm barred to practice law in California. I'm also barred to practice law in New York. But it's not only whether or not we can do something. Really, the standard we'd like to have for ourselves is whether we feel we're the very best attorneys for a project. And so even though I can practice law in New York, when I get asked to do a project in New York, if it's reviewing a contract, I feel like I do a great job on that for the client. But if it's something that involves New York regulations, registering a business, it's okay, am I really the best attorney for this? And often the answer is no. It's referring them to an attorney in New York that has a similar practice as mine in New York, but because they're focused on New York, they're going to add more value to the client from the legal services.
Nice. Perfect. So how do our viewers get a hold of you on social media and the web?
Yeah, so social media, we try to be pretty good about that, at least by attorneys. Attorneys are pretty bad at social media, but by attorney standards, at least, we try to be somewhat good at social media. I'm on Twitter, Doug Bend, at Doug Bend on Twitter. People are welcome to send me an email if they have any sort of legal questions. It's Doug, DOUG, at bendlawoffice.com. Be happy to chat with anyone that might have any follow-up questions.
Awesome. Yeah. There you have it. Great tips for protecting your company and business ideas with Bend Law Group. If you like this and want more tips and tricks on business and wellness topics that keep you uplifted, inspired, and balanced, like us and subscribe to our channel. And if you know someone who may be interested and benefit from what's on our show, share us. They'd be happy you did. To all of my beautiful souls who are finding their way with grace and ease, thank you for joining us today. And until the next time we meet, be beautiful and be well. Bye.